Hello, cheapskaters. How are you all? I was a bit lost there for a minute. Anyway, how are you all? I am a bit lost. I don't know what's going on. I'm all befuddled and confused tonight for some strange reason. I've been like this all day. Don't worry about it. It will get better, I am sure, because tonight's show is epic. It's humongous. Wow, we've got 23 people. There's a lie up there. I can see 23 people watching live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So we'll give everyone a chance to catch up before we get started, but then I'm going to just dive right on in because I have a lot to get through. I tried to time it this afternoon. I'm going to have to talk at double speed so that I can just get it all out tonight, but I will slow down for you. Estelle found her curtains on sale. Great. And yeah, hang the curtains while you watch, as long as you're not climbing on a chair because I fall off. Hello, Barb. We are all well. Well, I've just got my cup of tea made fresh in my amazing Keep It Hot Forever mug. So that's really good. Hello, Yvonne. Hello, Michelle. Hello, Amy. Barb says the kettle's nearly boiled. Linky family. Beverly. Oh, gosh. I really hope that we can stop your savings from going down. That's what I really, really hope. Hello, Kathleen. A Simply Good Life. Hello, Cheryl. Kelly Stocker. Sorry about last week, Kelly. We've been away camping, and before I left, I had planned to pre-record something, put it up for you. Well, you know, the best laid plans of Mice, Men and Kath just went to pot, and it didn't get done. And so there was no show last week. And I did feel bad about it, but not bad enough to race home and do a show. Sorry about that. Hello, Amy. Hello, Delaney. Go and have some tea. That's what you need. Keep your strength up. Tegan, Sylvia, Mary, Suzanne, Wildwoman, Mrs. Dilligaff, Lois. Hello, Helen. Oh, sorry, Helen, I misread. I thought you said I always have so much to say. And I said, all right, that's one thing I can do is talk. I don't know about giving, but I can certainly talk. I'm happy to talk. And Estelle used the step ladder. Thank you. I got into trouble because I was balancing on the sink again last week, but, you know, I didn't fall off. So that's a win, isn't it? Hello, Lynette and Catherine, Vashti, Ezra, Sandra. Well, welcome, Sandra. It's your first time catching me live. Welcome. Hope you can do it again, but there's always the replays. And okay. All right. How are we going for time? 7:34. Kathleen shopped from her pantry today to help her daughter who's come down with COVID. Oh, no. Poor thing. I'm actually starting to hear just from different family and friends who are coming down with this dreadful thing. And one friend, her husband and her 2 boys have had it 4 times. They just do not seem to be able to get rid of it. It is just ridiculous. Hello, Kathy. Glad you made it to a live show. Okay. I think we'll get started because, like I said, I've got a lot to go through and I'm already hoarse. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kath Armstrong. I'm the creator of the Cheapskates Club, but I'm also a Christian. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a homemaker, a small business owner, and I hope I'm a good friend. Cheapskates Club is a place where we come together and our goal is to live life debt-free, cashed up and laughing. Now, right now, I believe that we are in the grips of a financial crisis that I know is the worst I have experienced in my lifetime. Now, I lived through the 1970s. Admittedly, I was a child and a teenager in the 70s. Then the 1990s hit and we were just married and we had little babies and a new mortgage and we were just starting our family, just trying to pay off our first home. The 1990s were a disaster for us, as you know. Then came the GFC, and I remember calling it our personal ghastly financial crisis at a conference that I spoke at in Sydney in 2008 at the Entertainment Centre. Because it might have been global, but for us, it was just ghastly. And I don't think that any of those times, any of them, hard though they were, are even close or are even going to come close to being as hard as what we are experiencing now and what we here in Australia and you in other countries will continue to experience for years to come, people. It's not going to go away quickly. This is going to last for years. The consequences, the repercussions of what we've seen just in the last 4 weeks is going to cripple the world for years. Now, if this is your first time visiting our channel, welcome. And if it's not, welcome back. And I really hope this isn't going to be too depressing. I'm trying not to make it depressing. I want it to be positive for you. But I want everyone to know that this is serious. This is serious, folks. Now, I know a lot of you already know that. But I also have friends and family who are like, yeah, it's all right. It's all right. It's a hiccup, or, well, no, it hasn't. Nothing's happening. We're still all right. And I worry so much about what is going to happen to them when it all comes tumbling down. Now, I live with my husband and 2 of our adult children in Australia's second largest city. And frankly, we cannot wait to get out. Now, some of you may think that being in a big city during a crisis is the best place to be. We don't. We believe that we will be far, far better off with fewer neighbours, more land, fewer restrictions on the way we live, fewer cameras watching and tracking our every move. And I don't want that to make me sound paranoid, but now you've got speed cameras that are so, what's the word I want? So, it's gone, finely tuned, that they can see whether a phone on the dash is plugged in or not, or whether your seatbelt is actually clipped, or whether it's just pulled over. We now have cameras that AI type things, facial recognition, that pick you up on speed cameras, red light cameras, parking cameras, that can recognize your face, run it through a database. And if there's anything, you've done something wrong, it's going to pop up. I don't want to live like that. I don't want to live like that. I think that is very wrong. I know that, security cameras, closed circuit TV, all that sort of thing is supposed to be for our safety and our security. I think that's long gone. Now all those things are just an invasion of our privacy. I don't want to live like that. So we can get away where there's nothing, because even in national parks now, there are cameras in trees in bushes, watching what you do to make sure you don't, pull a plant out that you shouldn't or drive off the track or something. It's an invasion of our privacy. And I also think that it's a lack of trust, and that lack of trust is causing more damage than it is doing good. So we're just itching to get out of Dodge or Melbourne, as the case may be. Some of you know that our daughter bought her first home last July, or actually July 2021, wasn't it? It was a while ago. July 2021. That time's gone fast, hasn't it? And to keep her mortgage low, thank goodness, and her payments affordable, thank goodness, she had to move to a country town. Now, she would much rather have stayed here, close to friends and family, but she had to move, and she did it. Before I go any further, I want to stress that if anything I say scares you, stop and think and ask yourself why. If you think anything I say is an exaggeration, stop and think about it and ask yourself why. Because I'm not exaggerating. I'm not using clickbait. That's two things I'm accused of all the time. And I'm not fear-mongering. I'm not trying to panic you. I'm not trying to terrify you. I'm saying what I see, how I see it, and I'm telling it the way it's affecting my family. And I'm going to tell you how we're dealing with the circumstances in the hope that it will help you and encourage you and give you some hope that the future is going to be good. I'm seeing lots of changes just in our local little community in our suburb. I'm seeing lots of changes in our street, within the families in our street. We've a few different households in our street that we know, and I'm seeing changes within those. Now, the biggest one is a lot of people are still working from home. They haven't gone back to their offices. They're still working from home. Both my sons are still working from home. My daughter still works from home. Our neighbour across the road works from home. Next door to him works from home. They are still working from home. Directly next door to us, working from home on both sides. That's a big change. And it's having a big impact on our community. The other thing is people are still not going out. Now, there's a lot of reasons for that. I only go out once a week. Now, I was never the sort of person that will be in and out all day, every day. I like being home. I like to be home. If I'm going out, I'd rather go in the morning, get it over and done with, come home, then I'm free for the day. But these days, once a week. And I only go about 3.5 kilometres. Don't go very far at all. It's about a 7-kilometre round trip. Why? Well, the cost of diesel is prohibitive. I checked this morning, $2.05 a litre. Now, that means that it will cost $143.50 to fill my car. That's 2 weeks worth of grocery money, if you want to put it that way. I spend the same amount of money to feed 4 people, sometimes 5, occasionally 6, 3 meals a day for a fortnight. Driving just does not make sense, financial sense. So I go out once a week to a small local shopping centre that has most of what I need, has an Aldi, has Coles, greengrocer, a bakery, $2 shop that I love. Maybe I shouldn't go there. A newsagent has butcher. It used to have a post office. It's closed. They used to have a bank. It's closed. The bank at our local strip shopping centre or the 2 banks at our local strip shopping centre that I can walk to have closed. My nearest bank now is about 7, maybe 8 kilometres away. National Australia Bank is one of our major banks in Australia for our overseas viewers, is not only closing branches everywhere, but it's taking out ATMs too. It's forcing people to online banking. So I'm wondering if they're using that as a test. Is it the start of conditioning for their customers to accept a digital currency? I don't know. I do know that during early 2020, when the pandemic was just ramping up and people were petrified out of their minds and too scared to leave their homes, and, well, we weren't allowed to leave our homes, we were told to ditch cash. Cash was dirty. It spread disease. Stores preferred customers to use cards to pay for their goods. Some stores went so far as to only accept payment by debit or credit card, even though there is a legal obligation for them to accept cash, because it was and it still is legal tender in Australia. So again, I wonder if that wasn't a sort of a passive-aggressive mass test type of thing to see just how accommodating the population would be to accepting a digital currency, to going completely online with your banking. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. If you're not sure, do your own research. As always, do your own research. Don't take my word or anyone else's for it, but do your own research. Find out for yourself and then make a decision. But I'd really like to know what you think. If you think that is absolutely a part of the conditioning to move society as a whole into almost a 1984 type scenario, where we don't interact on a face-to-face basis, there's no real communication, there's no personal involvement, it's all virtual. Let me see. Well, I'm just reading your reading. All right. Okay. Susie says we should start with cooking from scratch. Lots of people don't know how to, but I do have a series in the works starting with literally how to boil an egg, because so many people don't know how to boil an egg. Greg Evans works from home. Delaney says collect ingredients. I saw that. I saw on the news that supermarkets are installing more cameras, more technology, more AI, which has been in the news a lot the last couple of weeks, supposedly as security. And maybe they believe it is. I don't. I think it's just them being nosy. It's not for security. All right. Linky family goes out less. I think Estelle, it is still the start. There's a lot more to come. If you do your research, there's a lot more to come before it can actually be put in place. I think the goal is to do it in a very passive-aggressive manner, much like we had lockdown. So we could only leave our house for 1 hour a day. We couldn't go more than 5 kilometers from home. We couldn't have visitors. If we had to go shopping, only one person per household could go to the shops and only had 2 hours a day to do it. That was a very passive aggressive way of figuring out what the population would take and what they'd rebel at. It worked. It worked. They did it by fear, using fear, and it worked. But I think there's a lot more to come. A lot more to come. So do your research. You'll be surprised. Catherine only has NAB in her town and it's closing. And post office. You're lucky you still have a post office. Oh my goodness. You're lucky you still have the post office. Queensland rail stations are cashless. I think Victoria is too. That's interesting, Catherine. ANZ's closing. No over-the-counter transactions from tomorrow. So you have to use the ATM for deposits and withdrawals. There are not a lot of ATMs around that will accept deposits anymore. Very, very few. They are hard to find. Mary's Bank of Melbourne is closing. Yes, Wild Woman. The cameras. Well, the cameras are all part of the plan. All part of the big plan. Tegan uses the post office for deposits. Yeah. The biggest thing with no cash is no privacy. Your spending habits will be tracked. Will those habits be used for good or evil? You decide. I know what I think. Anyway, social scoring is already here. Okay, no piggy banks. Piggy banks are hard to get. I've got my pink pig and my dollar, and I've got our fuel fund box, but they're like real novelties. Trina, this bothers me. Taking away gas so that, it can be cut off with a push of a button. This really bothers me. In my research for this and for a story for Cheapskates Club and for something that I was working on for Annabelle, I found some data. The last quarter of 2022, 30% of Victorian households defaulted on a power bill. 30% of Victorian households defaulted on a power bill. That means that 30% of households could not pay their electricity bill. That's how grim their financial situations are. The hard thing is, it means that they get whacked with a late fee. They get whacked with a reconnection fee. They still have to pay that bill, and they are now, check your power bills, because you can, if you're paying off your card, you could find they are slipping in a $2 or $2.50 a month fee for the privilege of you paying your bill to them. So it worries me. And what's worse is gas is being phased out. Natural gas is being phased out. And we're supposed to all switch to electricity because electricity can be run off renewables, which is absolutely flipping fine. I have no issue with that. But we can't generate the electricity we need now. How are we going to generate the electricity we need when the gas cooking is gone, the gas heating is gone, the gas hot water is gone, and everyone has to switch to electricity? Plus the price is just going up and up and up. How is that going to happen? How are we going to manage that? Especially when, as a country, as a nation, we have enough natural gas reserves to keep us going for 400 years. So while it may not be as clean as electricity, and the jury is still out on that, if you do your research, you will question that too. Surely in that time, in 400 years, some bright spark will be able to find a way that we can actually generate enough electricity cleanly and safely to run our homes and our businesses and our country. But just going bang to this is what we're by 2030, this is what's going to happen, is not going to work. It will cripple society. If I can see it, and I'm not the brightest spark in the world, if I can see it, why can these bright sparks not? And it goes back to, I always say, follow the money. Who's being paid to do what and say what? It is about control. Oh, Amy, that's terrible. The USA, in their massive snowstorms they've had the last 6 weeks, dreadful snowstorms and ice storms and things, have had just that issue. You can't buy, you can't sell, you can't trade, you can't pay your bills because there's no power to run the machines that do that. It's really hard. I don't want to sound like a complete and utter Looney Tunes nutcase here, and I hope I'm not, but it's much bigger. It is much bigger than what mainstream media, what our government, what certain experts are telling us. It is much, much bigger. Okay. Sorry, guys. I think they've already got the digital currency, Kylie. It's conditioning people, conditioning society, population to accept it and to get used to it. I think it's already in place. I read a thing today. The governor of Florida, I've closed it. The governor of Florida wants to introduce a bill to actually ban digital currency in Florida. And he's also running, he wants to be nominated to run for president too. And I've forgotten his name. Some of you will know. Anyway, he is being held down in the media as being technologically backward because he doesn't want digital currency, and he doesn't want it because it is an invasion of privacy. It gives the government control over your entire life. And he wants it banned in his state because that's the only area he has control of. And they are slamming this man as being technologically backward, wanting to keep Florida in the dark ages. I swear, if I was in Florida, I'd vote for him. It's really, really scary. Again, it's the baby that throws the biggest tantrum that gets the most attention. They're all screaming and yelling and calling him names and telling him, he's wrong and he's going to drag Florida down or whatever, and howling him down. So it's a bit like the more you hear it, the more it gets drummed into your head, often the more it becomes fact. Oh, that's terrible. All right. Yeah. All right. Oh, Kelly. Well, I've got that in my notes to cover further down. Yes, I'll explain further on, but yes, pretty much I do recommend having small denominations of cash. I do think that we should all have some items to trade barter with, if for no other reason than it's fun and it's a way to get what you want without stressing about having to have the money, if that makes sense. But I've got that in my notes, so maybe I need to get back. All right, I have to come back because, oh my. DeSantis, thank you, Estelle. Yes. Okay, guys, I see we've got 98 people watching. That's really exciting. Woo-hoo. Okay, let me get back to this so that we can get on track. Now, I think we're a pretty thrifty family. We don't live an extravagant lifestyle. Compared to some, we probably do, but compared to others, we don't. But we're cutting back even more. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that, but we're cutting back even more. And what I found is we're wasting nothing. For example, over the weekend, we had watermelon. It is the first watermelon we have had this summer because it was just too expensive. It has just been so expensive. So the first watermelon we had this summer, and I swear the five of us, because Hannah was home for the weekend, the five of us were just in heaven with this watermelon. So we ate all the fruit. I had the rind, and I kept the rind, and I'm going to make watermelon pie, watermelon rind pie, or watermelon rind pickles. Maybe both, a small batch of both, because they are both absolutely delicious. I'm not wasting a bit of that watermelon. I am going to get my money's worth out of it, and it is going to keep feeding us. I'm not wasting anything. I'm saving my tea bags. I'm getting 2 or 3 cups of tea from a tea bag, and then I'm putting them into the compost. I did find a carton of that cheap cream I got back in February. It was in the fridge behind the hamburger pickles. When I was making the butter, I kept thinking, I'm sure I should have more cream. I should have more cream. And I did look. I must have done I can't see the cream type look. Anyway, I was rearranging the fridge on Thursday and I found it. And oh no, here's that cream I was looking for. Well, it was well over a month past the use by date. And when I opened it, it was sort of like I think it had turned to butter by itself. It was turned into it was in a solid mass of, it just stunk to high heaven. So I put it in a bucket and I added some water and I stirred it up and I took it out and I poured it over the last of the tomato plants. I didn't waste it. Tomatoes love calcium. Figured milk, cream, calcium, it's all dairy, isn't it? So I suppose, well, technically that thing of cream was wasted because it didn't become butter. It did at least get used for something rather than just going straight into the bin. And I actually cut the carton open and rinsed it out so that I can reuse it for planting seeds. So I did waste something. But even things like eggshells, when we have eggs, I keep the eggshells and I dry them and then I'll bake them, then I'll grind them into powder for the garden. I've been making our own bone meal. Bones. Now, lots of bones, we're told not to put bones in the compost. Well, I put them in the bokashi bucket, but can grind bones into bone meal, and it's not that difficult. A couple of steps, none of them are hard, but you can make your own bone meal. It might only save you $9 from the garden centre, but it's $9. It's saved you, and bone meal's really good for the garden. It's full of phosphorus and nitrogen, calcium, all those things that the garden loves. The other thing I did, or have done, because I am being really tight, is one of my favourite t-shirts was just so badly faded, so badly faded. It was almost a different colour. And I tossed up whether it would just become a camping shirt or a garden shirt. But there was nothing wrong with this shirt. Nothing wrong with this t-shirt. Perfect condition. So I thought I'd dye it. So I looked online for where I could get RIT dye. Then I saw the price of it. So then I looked around again and I found the factory is in Pakenham. And I looked up, and you can buy from there, but it actually wasn't the cheapest place to buy because it was actually on sale at Spotlight. So it was $2.30 cheaper to buy it at Spotlight than from the factory or from Chemist Warehouse. So it cost me $4.30 for the dye, as opposed to $20+ for a new t-shirt. And I was so pleased with it, because that t-shirt looks like new. You'd never know it was 15 years old. You just would not. It's just beautiful. And then while the dye was there, I thought, well, I'm not going to pour it out. I'll keep using it. So a couple of Wayne's Work shirts looked a bit faded, so in they went. And they got dyed too. I have a couple of jumpers, Sloppy Joe type jumpers, that will be dyed for winter as well. Simply because I don't want to spend the money on buying things to replace things that we can still use. They're just not up to scratch. What else? Polishing our shoes. We both wear leather boots. Wayne wears steel-toe work boots, of course. His new work boots, $215. The boots that I wear, $300. Bit over $300. $300 on sale. Now I will say that I take care of my boots, and I will get 10, 12 years out of them, and I wear them just about all year round. So it sounds like a lot of money, and it is when you have to fork it out, but on a cost per wear, they're good value. But we take care of them. Well, I'm getting even naggier now about keeping the boots cleaned, making sure they're dry, keeping them polished so that they will last. Because when I was shopping for boots back in January, they are really hard to get. The boots I like to wear are Australian made. They're hard to get. The style I prefer was out of stock in all but the tiniest of children's sizes. So it's a good thing I started looking before I absolutely had to. Little things like that we're doing, one light in the lounge room, turning everything off at the wall and unplugging it. The only things that are left on all the time are the dishwasher, the fridge, the freezer, the cooktop, because we can't get in to turn the dishwasher and the cooktop off easily, and the ovens, wall ovens. It's just too hard, but we're turning everything else off and unplugging it. I wish I could say it was helping. We're using less power. It's costing more though. And that leads me to the wonderful news that we're going to be paying, another 30% for our power. And for for the privilege of paying for that 30%, we've got the promise of blackouts this coming winter. Isn't that fun? We're going to be paying to not have power. Woohoo! I'm so excited about that. You know, on top of mortgage increases and yes, rent increases, we've got a cheapskater I was talking to this afternoon and my heart broke for her. From the 4th of April, their rent is going up $190 a week. $190 a week. You could pay a mortgage cheaper. Household budgets are struggling. Australians are struggling. We are all having to cut back. Absolutely cut back as hard as we can. You know, with so many people defaulting on their power bills, cost of living going up, and yes, it is going up. I know that the blurb now, the propaganda now, is that interest rates have peaked, so it'll start to ease off a bit. So inflation will start to come back down, and prices will even out, wages will even out. It'll all be right in the end. No, wait. That's just propaganda. You know, I think with all this going on, it's makes me wonder why the government hasn't woken up to the fact that it actually needs to take back control of essential services. They should never, essential services, gas, electricity, water, telecommunications, post office, public transport should never have been sold off in the first place. These are essential services. They're not money-making enterprises. They are things that we need as a society to live, to maintain our standard of living, to improve our standard of living, to improve our society and our country. Those things should never have been sold off to private enterprise. Government needs to take back control. And I know that the Victorian government was talking about doing it by restarting the SEC. I'm not sure that, I haven't heard anything else about that for a while, so you know, that may have gone by the way of other election promises. Other things we do are things that we do out of habit. Boil the kettle and fill it up and then use the water. Boil the kettle, fill the thermos, use the water during the day to make our tea and coffee. I'm not using the ovens. It took me years to get the 2 ovens that I wanted. Now I can't afford to use them. I've brought the electric frying pan out and I use that instead of the oven for baking veggies and small roasts and so on. If I put a rack in the bottom of it, it heats up pies quite nicely too. Pies and sausage rolls will heat up quite nicely in the electric fry pan if you put them on a rack, so the hot air will circulate around them. I don't have an air fryer. I'm not going to get an air fryer. I have tried 2 air fryers and not liked them, and I'm not going to spend the money on something that I don't like when I've got appliances that will do the job for me. Slow cooker and the pressure cooker, they just cost a few cents an hour to run compared to the oven. I've always used them, but if you haven't used these appliances and you have them, get them out and try them rather than using your electric cooktop or your electric oven. You will notice a difference in the amount of power that you use. It is noticeable. One thing I have done this summer, and I'm not going to apologize for it, but I have used the air conditioner on the hot days. So if it was over 33, 32, 33, I put the air conditioner on. Now I checked with our power app, and running the aircon for the day adds between $6 and $7 to the bill. We don't run it every day, only on the hottest of days when we absolutely can't avoid it. Last Saturday, it was very hot here. It actually made it to 38 in our suburb. And I was hosting cards. So we had the aircon on because we had a lot of people in the house. But I checked that night, and I moved the money straight away into the bill account to cover the cost of running the air conditioner. I know that some of you might think, well, that's not really frugal using the air conditioner. That's okay. We've ditched a lot of unnecessary things that aren't important to us, so that we have the cash to enjoy the things that are. And on a really, really hot day, that's air conditioning. We don't eat out. We don't drink. We don't gamble. We don't go to the movies. So I use the air conditioner. Moving into winter, we've decided we won't be using the ducted heating. Instead, we'll use the firewood we've been collecting since the end of last winter. We've built up a lovely supply, so we can use our slow combustion heater to heat the house. It heats the whole house. It dries the washing, and it will heat water for dishwashing, for making hot drinks, for cooking. I can cook soup on it. I can cook rice on the top of it. We collect the firewood because it's so expensive to buy, almost as expensive as running the gas heater. We've got a chainsaw, we've got a log splitter, and we don't mind working to save money. So we usually turn collecting firewood into a day out, and we go with friends who collect firewood for their fires. We have a picnic or a barbecue lunch. We fill up the back of the ute, and for the cost of fuel, we've got 2 or 3 months worth of firewood. It pays to look to the future and plan ahead. We'll be warm as toast this winter, and for just a few cents a day. So if you're not looking ahead already, start. One thing that I have noticed and I have started doing is running a need list. The shortages, every week I go to the supermarket and I'm looking, I think, can't get this, can't get that, that's missing. So when we need something and I can't get it, I write it on the need list. It's just a page in my notebook, and I keep looking for those things. Now, I'm putting time into finding these things because these are things that we need. So I spend probably 20 minutes a day spread over the day, looking websites, browsing the flyers, checking Facebook ads, don't tell Facebook, to try and find the things that I have on that list at a price that we can afford. I think that more and more people are going to be doing this, having a needs list as well as a shopping list, as more and more people wake up and realise that they just can't get what they want or what they need. They're going to have to start looking for it, looking around for it. I also think it'll be the beginning of a new sort of economy, the barter swap economy. The thing like, I have spare gum boots that you need, and you have a spare woolen blanket that I need, so we can negotiate a trade. I think we'll be able to do that. I think that will become more and more common. I know I have friends that are already doing this. And I see this economy becoming more and more popular as more and more things disappear from our lives, or they simply become too expensive for us. Because that's the next crisis. Things disappear. The next crisis is what we have will just be too expensive. We will need to be spending more to get less. That's inflation, but this will be hyperinflation. We'll be bartering for the ugly casserole dish that we got for a wedding present that we've never used because it's really ugly. Someone needs a casserole dish, but they've got towels that we need. We can do a trade. We'll work out a trade. That will happen more and more, I think. Or I need my hair cut and I've got fresh veggies. We'll do a trade. That sort of thing will go on. And become, I was going to say an underground economy, but it'll just become more of a barter trade economy. I have no issue with that actually, because that sort of economy is really hard to track. I'm swapping with you and you're swapping with your neighbour and your neighbour's swapping with their best friend. It's a hard economy to track. Everyone's happy and we're all getting what we need. There's no money changing hands. There's no way to track it. It's just a simple way that we, the people, will be able to maintain our standard of living when, the shell grit hits the fan and breaks the windows. We'll all become more adept at that sort of thing. We'll become more aware of it too, and what we need to do to survive. And this really sounds like it's an end of the world scenario, like, Mad Max type thing, perhaps. I don't think it will be. I think it'll be pretty much like what we're living now. We just won't be as fiscally, as is that the word I want? Fiscally, as we won't be as tied to the banking system, be it a cash banking system or a digital banking system. We will be meeting our needs in other ways. So we'll still live in our houses and we'll still, be able to drive our cars and things like that. But we'll be, using a different form of currency. Now, most of you already know me, so you know that my pantry is my security blanket. And because of that, it is always stocked. And I am always stocking it. Well, I have been since the pandemic started. I use it, I restock it. I don't wait for my once a year shopping anymore. I've been preaching and teaching pantry building and self-sufficiency for almost 25 years. It's not something I jumped on during the pandemic crisis or when talk of the looming financial crisis started, and that was about 2 years ago, and I don't want to upset you, but, we're in the middle of it. It's already happening. Looming, that's a word governments and media and financial experts are using to keep us ignorant of the facts. Again, do your own research. Don't take my word for it. Do your own research. Look for the information for yourself. Keeping your pantry full takes work. We all know that it doesn't just happen. These days, I'm always looking at the gaps and working to fill them. Now, I don't ever share photos of our pantry. I will never show photos of our pantry. I don't believe it's safe, and I advise against it. I advise everyone against it. Now, someone's going to whine about that and say that they need to see it. They need to know they're visual, not whatever. Well, my pantry's my business, not yours. If you want to risk your security and show your pantry to the world, you go right ahead and do it. But I don't want to do that, and I won't do that. But I'm happy enough to tell you that we have grown our pantry. We've increased it so that we now have a 2-year supply of what we need and use. Now, how big your pantry is, how long it will sustain you in a crisis, that is entirely up to you. There is no right or wrong length of time. I will say, though, that in a true financial or any other really crisis, the longer you can live off your pantry without spending money, the better. So you might think a couple of weeks is adequate, or a month, or perhaps you think 3 months will be enough to get you through and your world will be back to rights. can I just say we're 3 years into this crisis with all its many offshoots, and there is no sign of the world returning to what we knew. There is no sign of our supermarkets going back to what they were in February 2020, to our department stores going back to what they were in February 2020. I don't believe it's greedy or selfish to have a full pantry and a good stockpile. And I know that having those things, it means that, when all the shell grit hits the fan, I'm going to be able to feed my family, keep them clean, keep our home clean, continue to grow and preserve some of what we eat without having to rely on someone else, especially charities and the government, because they will not be able to help. Now, I call it my security blanket because knowing that takes away the stress, takes away the immediate pressure that I would have of struggling to find our basic needs or being able to afford them. And you know what? Prices are rising so rapidly that it may become a reverse shortage. Plenty of food on the shelves, but it's so expensive people won't be able to buy it because they won't have the money. We're already seeing that here. Steak, just ordinary Scotch fillet, $68.99 a kilo. It's a week's grocery budget on the meat portion of one meal for a family of 5 if you stick to your portion control. Absolutely only the very wealthy can afford those prices. And if they keep paying those prices, they will not be very wealthy for long. What about potatoes? This week, $4 a kilo. $4 a kilo. I have potatoes in the garden, thank goodness. Rice, $2 a kilo, over $2 a kilo. Pasta at Aldi, 89 cents, 500 grams. It used to be 99 cents a kilo. The price increases are having a devastating effect on grocery budgets. And this is on top of rising rents and rising mortgages, and it is crippling millions of Australian households. Absolutely millions. There are households now that are having to choose between paying the mortgage, keeping the power on, feeding the kids. That's how bad it is. And that's what you are not being told in mainstream media. Ask around. Ask your friends how they're doing. Don't ask to be sticky beak, but ask because you care and you want to know. Ask because you want to learn so that you know how to prepare yourself and your household so that you don't have to make those choices. When I go shopping, I shop with a list and I stick to it. If it's not on the list, I don't buy it. Now, I do buy ingredients because ingredients give you options. And I do mostly buy generics, plain labels, store brands, whatever you want to call them. And I do always look for the markdowns, markdown food, markdown grocery items. I have to say, since Christmas, there have been fewer and fewer. Even after Christmas, there weren't many. It took a long time for the hams to be marked down. And then, most things are only marked down maybe 50 cents, maybe $1, even on things that are actually past their best before date. Food is expensive. Meat, as I just mentioned, is expensive. We're eating a lot of mince. We've always eaten a lot of mince, but we are really eating a lot of mince at the moment. And I am stretching roasts as far as I can. Now, brisket's been the cheapest meat the last few weeks. Managed to get it for $11.99 a kilo. So I bought a few, cooked them up. So I either got Lane to help me cut them, we put them in the slow cooker, we smoked some, I canned some. So we've got that to do us through the winter. We're almost out of chicken. So I'm waiting for chicken to come on sale because I've only got a few tins left and I don't think there's any frozen. So I'm scanning the flyers and websites every day. When chicken comes on sale, I will be buying as much as I can to fill the freezer and the pantry shelves. If I have to work non-stop for a week to do it, I will. If I have to move money from our holiday fund to pay for it, I will. And I had a look back, and the last time I bought chicken was September last year. It was $6.49 a kilo. Now, depending on where you buy it, $10.99 to $16.99 a kilo. That's ridiculous. Now, mince is on sale this week at the butcher for $10.99 a kilo. I'm assured Costco still has it for $9.99 a kilo, but you do need to factor in the membership fee, the $60, and travel costs if you buy it from Costco. I heard on the news this morning, very, very briefly, some of you may have heard it too, that the wholesale price of beef is falling, but it isn't being reflected at the supermarket. So maybe, just maybe, we'll see prices come down, but I'm not holding my breath. I'm just not going to hold my breath. Now we've got the Gulf country underwater, so I'm absolutely not holding my breath on that. And then there's things like, talking the shortages, last week I couldn't get cheese. There just wasn't any. So I counted the cartons of eggs, and there were 7 in total. Some weeks there's toilet paper, some weeks there's none. Frozen vegetables, hit or miss. Again, hit or miss. Prices going up, supplies going down. Some frozen potato items are still rationed, although I think this afternoon, one of the newses that I saw today, potato items should start to come back in as this harvest is happening, but expect another shortage next year because they just didn't plant enough. Crikey, guys. How could they just not plant enough? Seriously? It makes no sense. Anyway, I was talking to Annabelle yesterday morning, and after talking to her, I thought I'd just do a quick visit to my local Aldi, my local Coles. I popped into Woolies, but I don't like Woolworths. Sorry, Woolworths. It's a depressing store for me. It was just disheartening. It was sad. Now Aldi, I love Aldi. You know I love Aldi. Have very little in the way of fruit and veg. So the prices were actually okay. Not great deals, but they're not expensive as they had been. But there wasn't a lot there. Now, admittedly, it was, a Monday afternoon, so maybe they hadn't restocked. But there was very little meat, and the prices were rather high. There was no chicken at all. Very, very little in the way of cheese. And this, I need you to know your unit prices, Guy. I noticed the Aldi cheese slices were $4.29 a packet. And I went, wow, that's not too bad. Until I actually checked the price, the unit price. Because it does look, $4.29 a packet. It's cheaper than Coles. But the weight's gone from 500 grams to 432 grams. So when you do the per kilo price, you get your unit price. It's actually just 1 cent cheaper a packet than the Coles equivalent for the cheese slices. So you need to know your unit prices, even if it's just on the things that you buy regularly. But there was no butter, there were no eggs, there was no hard block cheese. The only grated cheese they had was 700-gram packs of mozzarella. There was no tin tomatoes, which is what I went to get, or tin tomato soup, which is another thing I went to get. Only 1 tray of baked beans, and that's now in our pantry. You snooze, you lose. The only frozen veggies were kilo packets of the peas, corn, carrot mix, baby peas, sliced green beans, and corn cobs. No frozen potato chips or wedges. That whole freezer was empty. There was a half a section in another freezer of the sweet potato fries, wedges, whatever you want to call them. No flour. No flour. 2 tins of olive oil. So then we went to Coles. It was pretty much the same, a bit depressing. I did notice that tin diced tomatoes have gone up 10%, 10 cents a tin to $1.10 a can at Coles. Now, what are you complaining about? It's only 10 cents. Well, on one can, that's not a huge impact on your grocery bill. But if you used 3 tins a week, and that's perfectly doable, that's $15.60 a year. Now, again, on one product, it's not a huge impact on your grocery bill over a year. But if every item on your list went up just 10 cents, that's potentially hundreds of dollars a year you will need to find just to continue eating as you have been. It's not easy to eat cheapskate's way at the moment. We can do it, but we need to be very, very aware. The other thing we need to be aware of is SPCA at the moment have stopped production of tin tomato products because they just can't get the fresh tomatoes to process. It's no great conspiracy. Victoria was flooded. Their tomato producers, their crops got washed away. So they don't have the tomatoes to process, and the story was they don't expect to be able to process them until 2024. So tin tomato shortage we're already experiencing, it's just going to get worse, and it's just going to last longer. That means prices are going to go up. Again, grow your tomatoes. Guys, it's easy to grow tomatoes, seriously. Easy. Even here in Melbourne, you can grow them in winter. There are shortages of food. There are shortages of toiletries, of medicines, pet food, cleaning goods, lumber, car parts, baby formula, furniture. Just about everything we use and need in our day-to-day lives is short. This is simply fact. We can say the shelves are full, and that may be true, but what are they full of? Because if they're not full of what we need, then there are shortages. But you won't find a government wherever you live that will admit that. They will still tell you that everything's under control just because you can't get what you need. Well, there's other things you can get. So what are you complaining about? Well, too bad your kids want to eat because all you can buy are gumboots. But you can still buy something, so there's no shortage. Don't be dumbed down by them. You're not stupid people. Don't be dumbed down by the propaganda, by the tripe that they're feeding you. Do your research. Trust what you see. Trust what you are seeing when you go to buy food, when you go to buy medicine, when you go to buy school shoes for your children or clothes. Probably the only thing there's plenty of at the moment are Easter eggs, but who can afford them? I saw a Ferrero Rocher sort of pyramid thing, $200. Seriously, $200. The world's gone to hell in a handbasket, people, but you can have $200 Ferrero Rocher pyramid for Easter. So frustrating because someone will buy it and then wonder how they're going to put petrol in their car or pay their power bill or, feed the kids for the next month. My advice is going to stay the same. It hasn't changed. It hasn't changed in 30 years. How old's Hannah? Hasn't changed in 27 years, 28 years. My advice is the same. Don't stop filling your pantry. Don't stop stockpiling. Stock what you eat and use first. And this is what we were talking about before. Stock what you eat and use first, because that's important. When you have your pantry full of those things, to whatever level you want it to be, then look to keeping a small stock of things that you could use for a trade. It could be firelighters. It could be vodka to make vanilla. It could be Band-Aids, whatever, sewing threads. Just keep a small stock of those seeds, a small stock of those things that you can use for trade. But don't worry about it until you have your pantry full and well stocked. Use your pantries. Once you've got it full, use it and just replace as you use so that it will always stay full. That's another show that we can do on how to use your pantry. But don't just sit it, build it up and look at it and say it looks so pretty, yada, yada. Use it. But when you take the box of Weet-Bix, replace it the next time you go shopping. Don't leave the gaps. Keep growing a garden. Learn new skills. Learn how to mend clothes. Learn how to darn socks. How to fix a leaking tap. How to dehydrate veggies in the oven or in the back of the car or in a solar oven. Learn how to make jam. Learn how to stretch your meals. Learn how to bake bread. It's not being selfish or greedy to stock your pantry. It's not panicking if you make it a habit to keep your pantry stocked. And it won't be as expensive if you work on it every week, little by little. Add a tin of corn and a packet of beans each week, or a cake of soap, or whatever. It's sensible. It's being a good steward and looking after your home. Ignore the naysayers, ignore the critics. We all have them in our lives. We all have them. And we know who they'll be begging for help when they wake up and realize they've made a mistake and they've wasted their opportunities. So ignore them. The other thing is get out of debt. Easier said than done at the moment, I understand, but work really hard to get out of debt. Start by not incurring any new debt. Don't use your credit cards. Put them away, cut them up, melt them. I don't care, but don't use them. Go to a cash budget. We're debt free. It wasn't easy. It was not easy. And it took a long time, and it took a lot of hard work and a lot of sacrifice in the short term. But in the grand scheme of our life, it was only a few years. And it was worth those sacrifices. It was worth that effort, because now we just have our day-to-day living that we have to pay for, our food, the utilities, we just have those things. So it means that while our income has shrunk, we're still doing okay. The other thing, I was going to say the last thing, but I'm pretty sure I'll keep talking after this. The other thing we've done is we've created a cash emergency fund. Now, we still have our emergency fund in the bank, but with the way the financial market's been, especially, even just since 1st January this year, and then with the collapse of so many banks in the last fortnight, we talked about it. We had a good talk about it while we were away, and we made the decision to withdraw some cash and create a cash emergency fund. Now, I am not telling anyone to clean out their bank accounts. I'm not telling anyone to stash thousands of dollars in their house. But think about it, and if it feels like it's the right thing to do, having enough cash on hand to give you breathing room if or when the banks collapse might be a good, sensible thing to do. Just be smart about it. Don't tell all and sundry what you've done. Be safe. Keep your mouth shut. I'll be blunt. Just keep your mouth shut. If that's what you do, keep your mouth shut. And I'm not encouraging everyone to race to the banks and withdraw all their money. That's not what I'm saying at all. But having a little bit of cash, however much you feel comfortable with, to get you, it might be a week or 2 weeks, a month's worth, whatever. It's entirely up to you, on hand, so that if you can't get to a bank straight away, you still have purchasing power, is sensible. We need to be smart. Right now, we really need to be smart. We need to be preparers. We need to be consistent with our preparing. We also need to do our own research. We need to keep learning. We need to be as independent, as self-sufficient, and as self-reliant as we can be. Because when push comes to shove, in the end, we really can only rely on ourselves and what we have prepared. Government's not going to help us. Government won't be able to help us. Charities are barely coping now. When this financial crisis worsens, and it will, they will not be able to cope. Preparing isn't showing a lack of faith. It's wise, it's smart, and it is trusting that God will supply our needs. So we need to be open to how he supplies those needs. If you get that niggle that says you should knock on next door's door and ask them if you can pick the oranges off their tree, then do it. If you get the urge to fill the freezer, do it if you can. It's not showing a lack of faith. It's being open to the help that you are being given. Because, what's that saying? It wasn't raining when Noah built the ark. It wasn't either, was it? It wasn't even raining when Noah went into the ark. But it paid off for him. Joseph, he prepared during the 7 good years for the 7 lean years. The children of Israel, they wandered in that desert for 40 years. And for 40 years, they prepared by collecting extra manna on the Friday so that they could eat on the Sabbath when there wasn't any. So follow your instincts. Listen to the little voice. Listen to that little voice that tells you to plant more potatoes, or to get those towels now, or to stock up on tinned tomatoes or frozen peas or Band-Aids or whatever it is. Be a preparer. And don't stop praying. Don't stop preparing. This really is, lastly, question everything. Question even what I'm telling you. Do your own research so you know what is truth. You know what and who you can trust. That's how you will survive this, and how you will survive it comfortably. It won't be easy, but you will get through it. All right, now, oh gosh, guys, I'm so sorry. I've gone way over. Oh my gosh. Okay, did we have any questions? Did anyone have any questions? Oh my. Okay. Oh, goodness. Kathleen. But it probably did. Kathleen said she felt her stockpile doubled overnight when her adult daughters moved out. Well, one moved out, but she still comes home regularly. So ours is about to stay the same. Gluten-free diet, but you can do it cheaply. You can do it cheaply. Can I recommend that you go to the Bluebirds Are Nesting and the Bluebirds Are Nesting on the Farm, both blogs, and look up gluten-free on those blogs. There's plenty that you can do that is not expensive, absolutely not expensive at all. Gluten-free does not have to cost a fortune. It just doesn't have to. Okay. I can't see. Kathleen, that's a common complaint. I've not heard it so much here in Australia, but I know a lot of friends in the US and some in Canada have been saying the same thing, finding it very, very hard. Things that would normally have a 15, 18 month, 2 year best buy are, running pretty close to the date when they are buying them. One friend actually took some stuff back, not because it was off per se, but she paid full price for it when it was actually 6 weeks out of date. She took it back to one of her stores. So, I think we'll be going further back than the 80s. I think we'll be going further back than the 80s. But, if you survive the 80s, if you survive the 70s, then the 90s, and then the GFC, you've at least got some practice. You know what to do. So, you know what to do. I love our wood stove, Susie Rose. Absolutely love it. All right. Oh, gosh, sorry, guys. I've lost. Can I suggest the top 5 small cost non-perishable items to stockpile to barter? Matches and firelighters, rubber gloves, seeds, garden supplies, that sort of thing. Useful things. Look for useful things. Tools. If you can find tools. If you have a tip shop or op shops, garage sales and whatever, go looking for tools, hammers, hand saws, pliers and things that would be really useful. What have I done with it? Useful, but don't cost a lot, and they don't take a lot of space to store. The other thing would be kitchen tools, kitchen appliances like old-fashioned egg beater, graters, that sort of thing. Good sharp knives, because they are all things that we've got used to, throwing things in our food processor or our mixer and not doing it by hand. And that's that leads me into a really fun challenge we have coming up, which is going to be called the Stone Age Challenge. Thank you to Wendy's lovely husband, Darren, for that title, the Stone Age Challenge. That's going to save us money. It's going to save us time. It's going to keep the electricity bill down. So those sorts of things, or fabric. towels, bedding, sheets, pillows, sheets probably more than pillowcases, but sheeting, that sort of thing. They are all things that you can get. You can get now secondhand and have a stash of, if they're in good condition, to use for bartering. Depending on where you are, don't screw, someone's going to scream at me, but depending on where you are, ammunition, that sort of thing. Wendy says soap is gold. It is true. Stockpile your soap making ingredients so that you have them, your laundry powder ingredients, your miracle spray ingredients, so that you have them on hand, because then you can actually make a small batch of washing powder and trade it for something that you really need, or a small batch of miracle spray and trade it for something that you really need. Make soap, trade it for what you really need. Freeze-dried coffee, says Trina. Sewing thread, yep. Honey, sugar, salt, yes. All sorts of things that you can do that don't have to cost a fortune. Yeah, that's why I sort of went, but depends. You pick and choose, but you pick and choose who you trade with anyway, and you pick and choose who knows what you have to trade. You don't advertise your wares per se. In that sort of grid down situation, you don't advertise what you have. Your pantry is private. Your pantry is private. It is nobody's business but yours. So you don't need to tell everyone what you have, and they don't need to know. Keep it private. Alison's been making fire starters with, I've lost it, melted wax and Swispers. Yes, if you use the washing machine and you clean the lint filter out, this is going to sound gross, but you know that grey glunk that's in the bottom of the lint filter, if you pop it out and sit it out in the sun, it dries, it burns really, really well. It's a great little fire starter. All right. Anyway, this is not getting us off. I've kept you long enough. I hope it's been helpful. I hope I haven't been too scary. I don't want to scare anyone. That's not my point. I just want to say thank you for watching and staying with me right to the very end. That's really nice. I looked and I saw, and there are 95 people still watching. That's just wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's been a long show. I've done a lot of talking, but I hope it's been encouraging. I hope it's been useful, if for nothing else than to get you thinking. Keep thinking about what you can do. If you liked our channel, please give us a thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed, please click that subscribe button and then that little bell icon to be notified every time we go live or upload a new video. I know there's a lot going on in the world at the moment. I know there's a lot going on in our own little worlds, our own little bubbles. And I've given you a lot to think about. I really hope it's empowered you and not scared you. Now, if you have any questions or you want to leave a comment after the show, you can do it in the comments section below me. I read all the comments and I do my best to answer all the questions. I will be back next week with a new Cheapskates video showing you how to live life debt-free, cashed up and laughing. And I have a fun new challenge for you with lots of ways you can trim your power bills and save money around the home. And I am pretty sure you're going to love it. I'm pretty sure that you are all going to love it. So until then, have a great week, everyone. Stay safe. Happy cheapskating. I'll see you in a week.